Quick question before we get into this. Somewhere in your kitchen right now, pantry shelf counter, that spot behind the blender you forget exists, is there a tub of protein powder sitting in there? Vanilla, probably. Half used. Bought after a New Year's resolution. Or after a doctor's visit where you heard a word you didn't love hearing, like inflammation, or you're losing muscle. Here's the part that's about to bother you a little. There is a bread, a real one, sitting on a shelf at your regular grocery store this week that has more protein per slice than that tub promises per scoop. And it doesn't need a warning label longer than a Costco receipt to explain what's actually in it. This bread is almost 2,700 years old. God didn't just bless it. He dictated the recipe himself, word for word, ingredient for ingredient, to a prophet. And the bread on tables across Galilee during Jesus' own lifetime was very likely built from those same 6 ingredients. I'm not handing you the whole story yet, because first you need to understand why we forgot it. So stay with me, because if you're over 60 or you love somebody who is the next few minutes, might genuinely change what's sitting in your kitchen by this weekend. Let's start with the part that actually matters most. What's happening to your gut right now, today, and why almost nobody has bothered to explain it to you. What's really happening to your gut? Here's something almost nobody tells you when you turn 60. Your gut is aging faster than the rest of you. Not metaphorically. Measurably, scientists who study aging even have a name for it now. Inflammaging. It's the slow-burning, low-grade inflammation that quietly builds in your gut as the lining thins and the good bacteria that used to run the place start clocking out early. Researchers have actually tracked this, the variety of bacteria living in your gut. Think of it as the number of different workers you've got on staff down there shrinks. The helpful ones, with names like bifidobacteria and lactobacilli, decline. The troublemakers move in and don't leave. Think about the last time you visited a friend your age, and they mentioned, almost in passing, that they just don't feel like themselves anymore. Nothing they can point to on a chart. Nothing a single test catches. Just off. A little more tired. A little achier. A little foggier than they used to be. That conversation happens in kitchens and church parking lots across the country every single day. And more often than anyone realizes, the honest answer sitting underneath it starts in the gut. Picture your gut lining like a screen door. When it's healthy, it lets nutrients through and keeps everything else out, the way a screen door lets in a breeze but keeps out the bugs. As you age, that screen starts to develop tiny holes. Researchers call this leaky gut, where things that were never supposed to slip into your bloodstream start slipping in anyway, quietly triggering inflammation throughout your entire body, not just your stomach. And here's the part that should genuinely surprise you. Scientists studying memory loss and cognitive decline in older adults are now looking at the gut, not just the brain. There's a real, measurable connection researchers are actively investigating between that leaky gut and brain fog, systemic inflammation, even long-term cognitive health. Nobody expects their stomach to be the reason their memory feels foggy at 2 inches the afternoon. But a growing pile of research says the two are far more connected than most of us were ever told. Sound familiar at all? Let's do a quick, honest check. You don't have to say it out loud. Just be honest with yourself. You're tired for no real reason, even after a full night's sleep. Your knees or your hips complain the second you stand up too fast. Somewhere around 2 or 3 inches the afternoon, your brain just fogs. You walk into the kitchen and forget why you're standing there. A little ironic, honestly, given where this video is headed. You catch every single cold that walks through your front door before your grandkids even finish, saying hello. Foods you've eaten comfortably your entire life suddenly don't agree with you. the way they used to. Here's a fact worth sitting with for a second. Somewhere around 70% of your entire immune system lives in your gut, not your bloodstream, not your lungs. It's called gut-associated lymphoid tissue, and it functions as your body's largest immune command center. So when that lining thins and the bacterial balance shifts, you're not just risking an upset stomach, you're weakening actual headquarters. Suddenly, catching every cold that walks through the door makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? If 2 or 3 of those landed a little too close to home, you're not imagining it, and you're definitely not alone. Most people, and honestly, a lot of doctors too, because it's the easy answer, chalk all of that up to getting older. But age isn't the actual culprit nearly as often as we assume. It's your gut, and almost nobody sits down and connects those dots for you. Now, here's a number that should stop your scrolling thumb entirely. Sarcopenia, the medical term for age-related muscle loss, already affects somewhere between 5 and 13% of people in their 60s. By 80, that number can climb as high as 1 inch every 2 people. And if you're not especially active, you can lose up to 8% of your total muscle mass per decade, starting as early as your 50s. 8% per decade, just from sitting there living your life. So naturally, what does everybody reach for to fight that? Protein. Which brings us to that tub in your pantry we talked about a minute ago. Here's where this gets a little uncomfortable, if there's a scoop sitting in that container right now. For years, people have quietly suspected whey protein is hard on an aging gut, the kind of thing your neighbor says with total confidence and zero sources to back it up. But in 2022, researchers actually tested it and published their findings in the journal Cell, one of the most respected science journals in the world. They looked specifically at artificial sweeteners, the sucralose, the saccharin, all the sugar-free ingredients companies pack into protein powder, so it tastes like a milkshake instead of chalky flour. Their finding? Those sweeteners measurably altered gut bacteria and disrupted how the body processes blood sugar, not in lab rats, in real healthy human adults. Here's the twist though, because I promised you this wasn't going to turn into a simple protein is evil video, and it's not. A separate 2025 study, done specifically on older adults, tested plain whey protein isolate, no artificial sweeteners, nothing fancy added. It actually increased the diversity of good bacteria in participants who started out with low gut diversity, and it happened within 3 weeks. So protein itself is not the villain in this story. Which means the real question was never, is protein good or bad? It's what did they hide inside the tub to make it taste like birthday cake instead of sawdust? And be honest, how many of us have actually flipped that container over and read the full ingredient list while someone's waiting for us by the shopping cart, tapping their foot? That's the quiet problem with a lot of pantry protein. It's not that protein itself is the enemy. It's that the version most of us are drinking is protein wearing a costume. Dressed up with sweeteners your gut has never once had to process in roughly 2,700 years of human digestion, mostly because those sweeteners didn't even exist until about 60 years ago. So here's a fair question. If you wanted real protein without gambling on whatever else came along for the ride, where would you even find it? Funny you should ask. Why this bread works. About 2,700 years ago, God gave a prophet named Ezekiel an unusually specific grocery list. Not eat whatever's around. Not just get some protein in you. 6 ingredients, named individually: wheat, barley, beans, lentils, millet, and spelt. Mix them together. Bake them into bread. That's Ezekiel 4:9. And honestly, it reads less like a prophecy and more like a recipe card somebody's grandmother scribbled on an index card and never threw away. Here's a fair question worth asking. Why 6? Why not just wheat? The way nearly every other loaf of bread on the planet has been made since forever. Turns out there's a real reason. And it's the kind of reason nutrition scientists only figured out formally a few decades ago, thousands of years after Ezekiel wrote it down. Wheat by itself is missing certain amino acids, the actual building blocks your body needs to build and repair muscle. You could eat wheat bread all day, every day, and still come up short. But lentils happen to carry exactly the amino acids that wheat is missing, almost like they were made to work together. Just an observation. Barley contributes a specific kind of fiber. The others don't bring much of. Beans add iron, which your blood uses to carry oxygen around your entire body, something that matters more, not less. As the years go by, millet and spelt round out the mineral profile, filling in whatever the first 4 ingredients leave behind. That iron point is worth pausing on. Iron deficiency anemia is more common in older adults than most people realize, and one of its telltale symptoms is, ironically, the exact kind of bone-deep tiredness we talked about earlier, the kind that doesn't lift no matter how much you sleep. So if that first symptom on our list hit a little close to home, the iron in this bread isn't just a nice bonus. It might be addressing the actual root of the problem, not just papering over it. On its own, each ingredient is a little incomplete. Combined, you get what nutritionists call a complete protein, a food that hands your body every single essential amino acid it needs, all in one bite. You've probably heard quinoa get called a complete protein and sold at a premium in the health food aisle because of it. Well, this 6-grain combination has quietly been pulling off the exact same trick for 2,700 years, using ingredients that cost a fraction of what quinoa does, from a recipe that's been sitting in your Bible the entire time. So what does that actually look like on a real plate, in real numbers? A slice of properly made Ezekiel-style bread runs around 5 grams of protein, with somewhere between 3 and 4 grams of fiber. 2 slices puts you at roughly 10 grams of protein, genuinely more than a large egg, and 6 to 8 grams of fiber, more than you'd get from a full bowl of oatmeal. From toast. Not a scoop, not a shake. There's a bonus here too if blood sugar is something you keep an eye on, which, if you're over 60, there's a decent chance it is. Because this bread is dense with fiber and whole, sprouted grains instead of refined flour, it digests more slowly, which tends to mean a gentler rise in blood sugar, instead of the spike and crash you get from white bread. It's a small detail, but if a doctor has ever circled a number on your blood work and told you to watch your carbs, it's a detail that actually matters. Now, to be fair, ancient doesn't automatically mean healthy. Plenty of foods from history were objectively terrible for people, and nobody's suggesting you bring back bloodletting just because it's traditional. But this particular case is different, because we can actually check the math, the amino acid profile, the fiber content, the mineral bioavailability. It all holds up under a modern microscope, which is more than you can say for most wellness trends, currently trending on social media. And we haven't even gotten to the part that really separates this from a regular bag of flour. Here's a word you've probably never had a reason to say out loud before. Sprouting. Before this bread ever sees an oven, the grains and legumes are soaked until they just barely begin to germinate, essentially tricking each seed into believing spring has arrived, and it's time to grow. And when that happens, something almost sneaky occurs inside the seed itself. Grains and legumes naturally carry a compound called phytic acid, which, stay with me here, behaves like a tiny pair of handcuffs on minerals such as iron, zinc, and calcium. It latches onto them inside your gut and refuses to let your body absorb them properly. You could eat a mineral-packed meal and still walk away with only a fraction of what you paid for, nutritionally speaking, because phytic acid is quietly holding the good stuff hostage. Sprouting breaks a lot of those handcuffs open. Depending on the specific grain or legume, research shows sprouting can cut phytic acid content anywhere from around a third up to as much as 80%. In some studies on sprouted grains, up to 90% of the polyphenols, the antioxidant compounds tied directly to fighting inflammation, go from essentially unusable to fully absorbable by your body. Translation: in plain English, the exact same seed becomes a genuinely different food the moment it sprouts. More usable protein, more absorbably minerals, and fiber your gut bacteria can actually feed on, rather than fiber that just passes through and does nothing. That last part matters more than most people realize. It's not only about regularity. Fiber from sprouted whole grains acts almost like fertilizer for the good bacteria in your gut. The very same bacteria we talked about earlier, that start quietly disappearing after 60. You're not just eating a piece of bread here. You're feeding the workforce down there that's been slowly losing employees for the last few decades. The people baking this in stone ovens 2,000 years ago didn't know one word of what I just explained. No labs, no microscopes, no peer-reviewed journals. What they had was arguably more reliable. Generations of grandmothers watching closely what happened to their own families when they ate this bread versus when they didn't. Nobody called it a superfood because the word hadn't been invented yet. It was simply the only bread worth the effort of making. Let's rewind for a second, because the actual context here is worth knowing, and I promise to keep this part short. Ezekiel wasn't handed this recipe as a wellness tip. He was a prophet, living through one of the darkest chapters in Israel's history. Right before the Babylonian exile, God instructed him to lie on his side for 390 straight days as a public, physical sign of Israel's coming judgment. Try imagining being told to do that in front of your entire town. And for food during that entire stretch, he was to eat this 6-grain bread, carefully rationed by weight, a small daily portion. This wasn't a luxury health food recipe. It was survival food. A use whatever's left in the pantry because a siege is coming, and nothing can go to waste kind of bread, combining grains and legumes that would never normally end up in the same loaf. And here's a detail most retellings skip entirely. Immediately after God gives this instruction, Ezekiel actually pushes back on him over one part of the original plan that he found genuinely revolting, and God amends it. Even a prophet negotiated his meal plan with the Almighty. If you've ever sent a dish back at a restaurant, you're in surprisingly good company. What's remarkable is that scarcity accidentally produced something nutritionally complete. Ezekiel wasn't trying to engineer the perfect amino acid profile. He was trying not to starve during a siege. But combine grains missing certain nutrients with legumes carrying exactly what's missing, and you don't just survive, you end up with a genuinely balanced meal, whether or not that was ever the intention. Fast forward a few centuries to Galilee, where Jesus grew up. Wheat, barley, lentils, beans, millet, and spelt were the staple crops of that entire region, the same 6 ingredients, grown by the same kinds of families, in the same soil. Bread wasn't a side dish back then. It was the meal, dense, heavy, baked fresh most mornings, in a clay oven built into a wall or dug straight into the ground. It's not a stretch at all to say the bread on Jesus' own table day after day was built from these very same staples, the ordinary bread of an ordinary working region. No factory, no ingredient list requiring a chemistry degree, just grain, water, and whatever a family had learned to grow that particular season. That's the short version. Now let's get to the part you can actually use this week. I know what some of you are thinking, because I'd be thinking it too. If this bread is so impressive, why hasn't your own doctor ever brought it up? Fair question. The honest answer is a little deflating. Multiple surveys of medical schools have found the average doctor receives somewhere around 19 to 20 hours of nutrition education across their entire 4 years of training, well under the 2 5-hour minimum nutrition experts have been recommending since 1985. That's not a knock on your doctor. It's simply not what medical school spends its time on. And there's no pharmaceutical company funding research on a bread made from 6 ingredients you can grow in a backyard garden because there's no patent to file and no prescription to write. That doesn't make it any less real. It just makes it a lot less profitable to shout about than the tub with the plastic scoop. Let's bake it. I can already hear a few of you thinking, that's a lovely story, but I don't bake. I can barely keep a houseplant alive, and now you want me handling dough? Fair. Here's the good news. You don't need a clay oven dug into your backyard, and you don't need flour-dusted hands passed down through 6 generations of grandmothers. You need a regular kitchen oven, 1 mixing bowl, and about an hour where you're not actively doing anything except waiting. And if baking genuinely isn't your thing, here's the shortcut. This exact combination is sold pre-made in most grocery stores today, usually in the frozen or health food section, under the name Ezekiel 4. Jill? Yes, that's the real product name. Yes, it's named after exactly what we've been talking about this entire time. But if you'd like to make it yourself, here's exactly how. What you'll need: 2 cups sprouted wheat flour. Most grocery stores carry this. Now, usually in the baking or health food aisle, it's not the rare unicorn ingredient. It used to be a 1/2 cup barley flour, a 1/4 cup dried lentils, soaked overnight, then drained and mashed with a fork, a 1/4 cup dried beans, soaked overnight, then drained and mashed with a fork, 2 tablespoons millet, 2 tablespoons spelt flour out of spelt. Use a little extra barley flour. Instead, Ezekiel worked with whatever he had on hand. So can you. 1½ cups. Warm water. Warm, not hot. Think comfortable bath water, not fresh off the stove. 2 tablespoons olive oil. 1 tablespoon raw honey. 1 teaspoon sea salt. One quick practical note: wheat, barley, and spelt all contain gluten, so this particular recipe isn't gluten-free as written. If that matters for you or someone you're baking for, a good gluten-free flour blend can stand in for those 3, though the texture won't be quite as close to the original. How to make it. Mix your dry ingredients together first: the flours, the millet, and the mashed lentils and beans. Add the warm water, olive oil, honey, and salt, and mix until everything comes together into a thick dough. Fair warning, this will not look like the light, fluffy sandwich bread dough you might be picturing in your head. It'd be denser, darker, heavier, almost stubborn about it. That's exactly correct. If it looks soft and airy, something's gone sideways. Let the dough rest for an hour. This is the part where you go do literally anything else. Watch your show, call your sister, water that houseplant you're pretending not to have killed. This bread does not require supervision. Shape it into a round loaf on a parchment-lined baking sheet and score the top with 2 or 3 shallow cuts. Partly tradition, partly practical. It helps the loaf bake more evenly. Bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 45 minutes until the crust turns a deep golden brown and the bottom sounds hollow when you tap it. The exact same way people have been testing bread since long before ovens ever had temperature dials. Let it cool for a few minutes before you cut into it. I know that might be the single hardest instruction in any recipe ever written. When you finally do slice it, you'll notice it's dense, a little nutty, slightly earthy from the barley and lentils. This isn't bread you eat mindlessly in front of the television without even noticing. It's there. Every bite is actually doing something: protein, fiber, iron, and minerals working together the way they were designed to, rather than isolated in a lab and shoved into a tub with a plastic scoop. A few honest notes: if this is your first time making it, it won't rise the way yeasted bread does, because there's no yeast in the original recipe. Don't panic when it stays dense and low. That's normal, not a failure on your part. It also skips the preservatives store-bought bread, relies on to sit on a shelf for weeks. So keep it in the fridge for about a week, or slice it and freeze it, so you can toast pieces straight from the freezer whenever the craving hits. As for how to actually eat it, a little butter and a drizzle of honey works beautifully. So does a smear of avocado, or a fried egg on top for even more protein. And if the texture takes a little getting used to, you haven't done anything wrong. This bread is supposed to feel different from the bread you grew up on. That's rather the entire point of this video. One more tip. From one practical person to another, this recipe doubles beautifully. If you're already committing an hour of your day and dirtying a mixing bowl, you might as well make 2 loaves, bake one, and freeze the second one whole, wrapped tightly, for up to 3 months. Future you, standing in the kitchen on a morning you don't feel like doing any of this, will be genuinely grateful that past you thought ahead. We've turned health into something you purchase in a tub. $30 protein powders, $50 supplement stacks, capsules and shakes and powders promising everything printed on the label, often delivering a lot less than advertised, while quietly working against the very gut they claim to be helping. Meanwhile, nearly 2,700 years ago, a 6-ingredient recipe dictated word for word to a prophet lying on his side for well over a year was quietly solving a nutrition puzzle. We're still writing research papers about today. Families who never once said the word microbiome out loud built entire lives around this bread. They worked fields from sunrise until sunset. They walked distances most of us wouldn't consider without a car. They raised children, survived famines, and did every bit of it on grain, water, and patience. Maybe the answer was never sitting on a shelf between the creatine and the pre-workout. Maybe it was always sitting in the oven waiting for about 2,700 years for someone to finally remember it. There's something almost funny about that. If you think about it long enough, we built entire industries, entire aisles of the grocery store, entire advertising budgets, trying to reverse engineer what a handful of Israelite farmers stumbled into by necessity, armed with nothing but hungry families and a God who apparently cared enough to get specific about the recipe. You don't need a subscription. You don't need a discount code. You need a mixing bowl and an hour. So here's what I genuinely ask of you. If any part of this got you thinking about your gut, about that tub in your pantry, about a prophet who once talked God into changing his own meal plan, do a few things for me. Hit like on this video, because it genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need to hear it. Subscribe if you'd like more of these. The stories behind what we eat, the history most of us were never taught, the science that keeps circling back to confirm something ancient. And if you know someone in your life who's over 60 or heading there faster than they'd like to admit, send them this video. Or better yet, bake them a loaf and set it on their table yourself. And truly thank you for spending this time with me today. Videos like this only work because people like you stay all the way to the end, and that means more than you probably realize. I'll see you in the next one.